and welcome to BBC News School Report.
I'm Sam and this is Naomi. In the news today, Big Six face competition inquiry and the Daily Mail reports satellites have spotted 300 floating objects on search for flight record MH370.
Coming up on today's show, Michael reports on the environment issues in our area. We have a full round-up of the goings-on in the entertainment world.
Plus, we look at whether women are equal to men in today's society.
But first, are robots real? Are they not? We sent Chloe and Katie to find out.
When we think of the future, many people think of robots ruling the world. And while scientists are always creating more advanced robots with many different purposes, they are developing them for positive reasons, not world domination. For example, some robots can help the elderly and be a toy for children. The latest robots are inspired by the animal kingdom, with animals such as ants, bulls, cheetahs and even fleas. Can robots help children with learning difficulties? Well, yes, they can. Apparently, they will help children with communication skills. The robot that helps is called Casper and looks like a human. He has simple features and repeats phrases.
Earlier today, we went to go and see Mr. Chana to ask him some questions about robots and what his opinion was on the matter. Do you think it's a good idea using robots to help children with communication problems, and why?
I think we can use robots for lots of things to help us doing lots of different tasks. And if it can help children or anyone with communication problems, I don't see why it's a bad thing. I do think that a lot of issues in society, a lot of the problems we've got in society are down to children not actually socialising with other children.
This is Chloe reporting from BBC News Report.
Well, I didn't know that.
Neither did I. Interesting stuff. Next up, the ultimate question. Do you enjoy Blackpool?
Well, for me, absolutely not. Preston North End forever.
Well, we sent Molly out to investigate the tourist situation in Blackpool. She looks at how the tourist boards are incorporating Blackpool's past into its future.
Recently, Dr. Simon Furley, Chief Executive of the English Heritage, suggested that we use the popular past of Blackpool to promote its future. The council is hoping to bid for £3 million from the Lottery Heritage Fund, and if the money is granted, they're hoping to use the money to build a museum situated in the Winter Gardens. Also, on April the 5th of this year, a cafe is being opened to educate visitors on Blackpool heritage. It is hoped that the number of visitors will increase to prevent any further decrease of the number of tourists visiting Blackpool. We asked Ms Clark their opinions on this matter.
I think it is a great idea because I think Blackpool's got a lot to offer people that want to come and visit it. It's a great day out Blackpool if it's hot and sunny. It's a bit miserable when it's raining, but I definitely think the hot weather can bring people down to the beach.
This is Molly Nagel reporting for BBC School News Report. Back to the studio.
Hopefully that will make a positive difference to Blackpool.
Sport Relief took place last week with its raising more than 51 million, an amazing total.
Here at St Aidan's, we had a sports staff bake-off and raised money selling the products. We sent Lucy to find out more.
Everyone loves eating cake, but not everyone has the culinary know-how to rustle up a Merry Berry showstopper. The PE department, however, have decided to pit themselves against one another to see who the St Aidan's Sport Relief champion chef is.
In order, you need to weigh your own ingredients out. Now you need to make sure that you weigh out...
In the style of Paul Hollywood, Miss Russell set the PE staff a technical challenge to make hot cross cookies. To make it more difficult, she cut up the recipe and the teachers had to rearrange it into the correct order.
Oh, that's more like it. Bit of a...
Mr. Armfield seemed to struggle with the task, as once his cookies were in the oven, he remembered that he had left out two main ingredients. The bake-off culminated in a bake sale in the school refectory where everyone could taste the teacher's baking.
Have you ever baked before the bake sale?
I am partial to a bit of cooking, but baking is not my forte usually, no.
What decoration did your cakes have?
I decided to do traditional and just go with a cross on the top.
Why do you think your cakes won?
I believe they were crunchy on the outside, a nice bit of crunch when you bit into them, and nice and moist on the inside.
And what did you think of your cake?
Well, they were all sold at the cooking fair, and I think they tasted delicious.
All the money raised from this bake sale will go to Sport Relief to help children across the world who are living in poverty. So even if the baking didn't quite match up to Mary Berry's standard, it's all supporting a good cause. This is Lucy reporting for St Aidan's BBC News School Report. Back to the studio.
It's nice to know we contributed to this final total.
Indeed.
Recently, the Bishop of Blackburn, Right Reverend Julian Henderson, visited St Aidan's to help celebrate the school's Golden Jubilee. Destiny and Rebecca report.
Many people dread turning the Big 5-0, but here at St Aidan's we've celebrated this golden year in style.
On Tuesday the 11th of March, Bishop Julian Henderson came to join us for a celebration Eucharist. He spared a couple of minutes for a quick chat. What do you think of our school?
Well, I've had a great welcome today. I've had a tour around, in fact it's the second visit to the school because I did come here in the end of last year, so it's my second visit, and I think you've got great facilities. I've seen it in the most wonderful weather today, so I've been out on the playing field and seen the fantastic pictures you've got. I've seen your groundsman at work, doing great work around the school, and I'm just very impressed with the quality of the buildings and the facilities you've got here. And then it was great this morning to have shared in a whole school service.
Why do you think young people should go to church?
Well, I think they should, but I would want to say to them that you need to choose which church you go to, because not all churches are young people friendly. And I think some very traditional churches put young people off. And so they stop going because they have a bad experience. So I wouldn't say go to any church, but go to a church where young people are catered for, encouraged, there are things for them, there's a youth group and all this. That's what I would want to encourage people to do. Because if there aren't young people going to church, where's the church going to be in 30 years' time?
And what's the best thing about being a Bishop of Blackburn?
One of the worst things for me, if I can do that, is being put on a pedestal, and I don't like being put on a pedestal and people sort of calling me Bishop this and Bishop that. I'd much like to be known as Julian. I'm very ordinary, like everybody else. I've just got a special role in the life of the church. Yeah, in terms of what I like most about being a bishop, I suppose is the privilege that there is to speak of the good news of Jesus Christ to other people.
It was wonderful to have Bishop Julian here to celebrate with us, and also lots of people who have connections to the school in the past. So they all came together to celebrate 50 years, and it's good to thank God for everything that's happened in the school, because that's at the centre of everything we do at St Aidan's.
During the Eucharist, Bishop Julian Henderson was awarded with a cross especially made by the Pottery Club to mark his visit at the school.
Everyone really enjoyed the Eucharist. It was a fabulous day. This is Rebecca and Destiny reporting for BBC School News Report.
It was a great day.
It was indeed. The St Aidan's Golden Jubilee celebrations have been great. Elizabeth went to find out more on them as a whole.
St Aidan's has been open since 1963 and has changed rapidly. We have talked to 3 teachers to show how.
The biggest thing that I think has been developed has been the use of the electronic whiteboards. Teaching's changed quite a lot. I think it's changed for every teacher in every school, because when I first started teaching, no children had targets to work to, and teachers didn't really have targets to work to. I think it's really important that we celebrated 50 years. Like in any family, you support significant things like that, so people make a big fuss about supporting the 50th birthday. We're a big family at St Aidan's.
Uniforms totally changed since I started. The Year 11s have always worn black. The rest of the school used to wear a blue, the girls used to wear a blue blouse and a grey jumper and grey skirt.
There are obviously more teachers and it's much bigger. The style of teaching has changed dramatically and the curriculum has as well. There's much more interesting subjects than there used to be.
Go.
There have certainly been many changes. It was lovely to celebrate the past 50 years.
Next, we sent Michael out to investigate into the looming energy crisis and how our local area proposes to tackle it.
Imagine not being able to turn the lights on, boil the kettle or have a shower in the morning. In 10 short years, this could be a shocking reality. as recent reports show that many power stations will have to close down for good to achieve the 2050 reduction in carbon emissions. This may have some bearing on the global warming crisis, but it's clear that the UK will run out of energy in the near future.
I am a little bit concerned about the energy resources running out. I'm with two teachers in school in Year 9 and in Year 10, and as how it will affect me in the future, I think it's going to affect my children and my children's children in the future.
Many sustainable ideas such as wind power have been suggested, but energy firm Quadrilla strongly believes the cheaper but controversial process of fracking could revive energy sources in the UK. The process involves pumping sand, water and chemicals into shale rock, which then releases the cheaper shale gas, and has been heavily backed by Quadrilla executives and MPs across the country.
It's going to mean that we don't have to buy gas from abroad. We're importing over 60% at the moment. It's going to create lots of job opportunities in the UK.
Secondly, it would give Britain security of energy supply.
However, there have been some worries over the environmental aspects about fracking.
Fracking's a bit of an awkward one, isn't it? It's quite controversial. What I would say is my main worry about fracking, seeing as you asked, is the water that's involved. So basically what we're doing, we're pumping water into the rocks under high pressure and making all the rocks kind of flake apart to get at the gases and things like this. The only problem I have is that that's a lot of water, which involves a lot of transportation of water.
It's clear that the next few years are going to be crucial to British energy, so think twice before leaving that tap running or leaving the light on. This is Michael reporting for BBC News School Report.
Here we are joined by Michael, and we've got some questions about fracking from St Aidan's pupils.
Hello.
How much gas will we get out of it? This question is from Will, Year 8, H7.
We could get around £100,000 of gas out of each well we drill, so it's quite a good deal.
Very good for the country then.
How will it affect the environment? This question is by Tim, Year 9, B5.
There aren't actually there isn't any evidence that say it could harm the environment, so I don't think there'd be any problem with using it to get our energy.
That's good. It was interesting to find out more on that.
From one development to another, Oscar has been finding out more about the development of a new pen that can identify stakes.
Thanks, Sam and Naomi. If you struggle to spell and you feel embarrassed not knowing how to spell a word, then don't worry. With this new pen, it informs you when you have spelt a word wrong. The pen has been made in Germany and has been designed to aid you to spell.
It sounds very interesting. I'd like to see how it would work in reality. I'm not sure that it would be all that reliable. Well, I think it is really important that students are able to learn themselves spellings and punctuation and other areas of literacy particularly. So I'm not sure it is a good idea. I think first and foremost children need to learn how to look for errors themselves and correct them themselves, and using traditional things like dictionaries and a thesaurus would probably be better than a pen like this.
That could come in handy, especially in exams.
Indeed it would. Ellie and Neve have been looking at the scary upcoming changes to the education and exam system.
Since coming into power in 2010, the coalition government have made many changes to education, and there are many more yet to come. They have created free schools, more academies, and thought it wise to remove speaking and listening as part of the overall GCSE English. The changes have been huge, and with so many more to come, what effect will they have on you? Many changes have already happened, but what about for those of us in lower school? We receive no grade at the end of our 5 years, just a number, and no controlled assessments are worrying 12-year-olds all over the country. The fear of endless exams that last for up to 2 hours at a time is worrying to say the least. We want to find out the truth behind the stories in the news. Instead of letters, grades will now be numbers. The grades will be 1 to 9, 9 being the highest, A star. This will be confusing for employers who have no experience with the number system. Coursework is being scrapped for most subjects, and students will have just one big exam at the end. The English exam is rumoured to be 8 hours long. There will be more marks awarded for correct spelling and grammar. The change is because up to 40% of students got an A star or A grade passes, making it too hard for universities to single out the brightest student. we went to find out what you think.
I don't really mind about how it's changed, but the thing that I don't find very fair is that that you don't have any time in lessons to do any tests to prepare for the exam at the end.
Well, I think it's a good idea because then the lowest set have got a chance of like getting a higher grade.
For the lower abilities, it's not as fair, but for the higher, it's all right.
I think this is a better idea because then the lower ability people have a chance of getting a higher level, and it's more fair because everyone's sat the same test.
There are several changes happening in GCSE English. One of the changes which I do welcome is the fact that if you don't happen to get your GCSE English at the end of year 11, when you go to college you do have to continue taking your GCSE English until you actually get that qualification, which I think is very important because a basic sense of literacy is absolutely vital in any job that you go into. Other changes that I perhaps don't agree with are the fact that there will no longer be any controlled assessments in GCSE English, which takes away 40% of the final qualification, and that 40% unfortunately goes into the final exams. So from year 8 onwards those students could be sitting as many as 8 hours of GCSE English exams, which I think is very challenging for any ability of student. I think sadly for most of them it will affect them negatively because most students do react better in controlled assessment situations where they have a little bit more time and there's less pressure, and we're all human beings and none of us particularly enjoy exams, and I think 8 hours of English is really quite tortuous.
Wow, people are very opinionated about this matter. We'll have to see how it turns out. This is Ellie and me reporting for St Aidan's BBC News School Report.
Pocket money is becoming an issue in young people's lives due to lack of jobs. Pocket money seems to be the only alternative as a way for a teenage freedom.
Charlotte and Rebecca conducted a survey to find out what you thought about pocket money.
A recent report shows that children's pocket money, on average, has risen to £12 a week. Some children earn their pocket money by doing chores and tasks for their parents, while others receive it simply by watching television and endlessly using social networks. We did a survey asking pupils on their own views and own experiences on pocket money.
The results of the survey show that 52% of the people we asked get pocket money, 69% earn it by doing chores, and 70% get more than £2 a week. 47% were over 10 when they started getting pocket money. A shocking 5% showed children getting pocket money as little as 5 years old.
These results are giving a good indication of how much pocket money children are getting in 2014 and how they earn it. Let's just hope in the future more children learn the value of money for a hard day's work and not to expect to get it for nothing. This is Rebecca and Charlotte reporting for St Aidan's BBC School News Report.
It is so interesting to find out how varied the responses were.
We all know about the work and effort people have put in for women's rights, namely the suffragettes. It is shocking that some gender discrimination is still regularly seen, more than you may think.
The Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St Andrews is urging its 2,500 members to vote in favour of abolishing its men-only policy. After an outrage from women, the RNA have written letters to urge existing members to vote in favour to abolish it. But in the early 20th century, women couldn't even vote, and despite having major changes since then, there are still things that even in the 21st century, women can't do. This includes frontline fighting in the army, women's football not being advertised as much as men's, studying minor in China, and even shopping alone in the Islamic religion. I spoke to Mrs. Cox on how she feels 21st century religion treats women.
I don't really think it's down to the religion. I think it's down to the people that use specific teachings and translate them and transpose them into what they want to hear. For example, St Paul said that women shouldn't speak in church. He wasn't saying that women weren't worthy of speaking in church. What he was saying was that they have a different role. And it's the same with a lot of Islamic teachings. Women have a different role. It's not worth any less. It doesn't make the women worth any less.
I spoke to student and footballer Jordan on how she feels about women's football.
Yeah, it's very unfair how men get treated a lot better and paid a lot more. to play sports when women can be equally as better. Men's games get broadcast on Sky Sports, whereas women just don't ever get showed playing on TV.
So maybe women are being treated unfairly. And maybe one day we will have a world of complete equality. Back to you at the studio.
Things like that regularly give you something to think and ponder upon.
Unfortunately, this brings us to the final story in our report.
No better way to end by celebrating the success of the students at our school.
Kieran attended the presentation of some Radio Wave Kids' Choice Awards. Over to you, Kieran.
This year, for the first time ever, Radio Wave has hosted the Kids' Choice Awards for the Fylde Coast. With hundreds of entries from many different sections, it proved rather difficult to pick a winner. But two St Aidan students, Megan and Brandon, won in great success. We caught up with them after they were given their awards.
I go out skateboarding roughly every night for about 3 to 4 hours, and it just gets a bit annoying seeing dog fouling everywhere, and half the time you either go in it or go around it.
I guess I'm quite proud because it was all throughout the whole Fylde, so to win that as a personal award, it shows that I've accomplished a lot, and then that just makes me proud, it makes my family proud.
Well, I'm particularly proud of these two because of the time and effort they've put in outside of school. We know that it's really difficult to get through a working week at school, 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, but then to, on top of that, do things in the community. In Megan's case, all the hours that she puts in playing football, travelling around the country, representing different teams, and in Brandon's case, just being out and about in the Pilling area and making sure that the community is clean for everybody else, I think is fantastic.
Congratulations to Megan and Brandon, but there are many other talented students in school. Look out for a report profiling their achievements later in the year. This is Kieran reporting for BBC News.
That brings us to the end.
This has been Naomi
And Sam reporting for the BBC News School Report. Thank you.